John Fidel from Conservative New Media. We're still here at Presidency 5 in Orlando, Florida, and this thing is just going off the chain. And now I'm with U.S. Senate candidate Adam Hasner. Now, Adam, you just won a big straw poll here. What's going on?
Well, we're very encouraged with the results from yesterday's straw poll. I think it's just validating all of the hard work we've been doing. I've only been a candidate for U.S. Senate for 5 months. Some of my Republican rivals have been running for statewide office for years. One has been holding statewide office for 2 years. So I'm just getting started, and so it's a great momentum builder, and nothing's going to change. This is just the beginning. We're continuing to get out. People are getting to know me. I'm getting to share with them about my record of serving during my time in the state legislature, and I'm getting the opportunity to talk about my vision for the future of this country.
So let's talk about that vision. Why are you running, and what would you do to make a difference in the U.S. Senate for the good people of Florida and the United States of America?
Well, the reason I'm running is because this is a three-front ideological battle for the heart and soul of our country. I believe this is a line in the sand moment, that we can put America back on the right course, but it's going to take people who have the courage to stand up and do the tough things, even if it's not popular. And I demonstrated that during my time serving in Tallahassee. I was the Republican majority leader. When Marco Rubio was the Speaker of the Florida House, he selected me to be his Republican majority leader, and we were fighting for a conservative reform agenda. Even back in 2007, when it wasn't popular, Charlie Crist and George Lemieux and so many of the other Republicans were saying that Republicans needed to act more like Democrats. And I think what we need now in Washington more than ever, and I've been saying it a long time, Republicans don't need to be less partisan. Republicans need to be more principled. And I think that's why I want to go to Washington, because it's not just about fighting against the Democrats. It's also about standing up to the Republicans who act like them. And I believe we can turn the corner, that we can restore America's economic prosperity, that we can restore a national security policy based on peace through strength and standing with our allies like the State of Israel, and that we can reclaim our foundational Judeo-Christian values. But it's going to take hard work, and it's going to take people with courage.
I want to talk about a number of those things you just brought up. First of all, it just as an aside, what happened to Charlie Crist, and do you feel like that's maybe indicative of the problem of sort of career politicians or the quote-unquote establishment?
Well, I remember, because I served in the state legislature for 8 years. My first 4 years were when Jeb Bush was governor.
Okay.
It was a different time in Florida. Jeb Bush was a principled leader. He knew what he believed in, and he wanted to advance a reform agenda. Charlie Crist was a much different politician, someone who was more about populism, who was more about what the polls were saying, and the direction that he wanted to go was only based on what his approval ratings were going to be. So he was supporting things that Arnold Schwarzenegger was supporting, the cap and trade policies and all these center-left policies, because they were popular at the time, because Republicans lost in 2006, and much of the conventional wisdom was, oh, Republicans need to be less Republican and more like Democrats. And the reason we lost in 2006 is because Republicans started to act. We lost our conservative values, and so what I think is important to understand is that we need people who aren't just conservatives now that it's popular. Exactly. We need people who have proven themselves on the tough issues, and I did that during my time in the legislature. I've proven, even in the face of opposition, even in the face of criticism, I'm not going to give in, and I think it comes from the fact that I've been going against the grain my entire life. Mm-hmm. Many people know, but I'm the son of 2 liberal Jewish Democrats who was born in Brooklyn, New York. My parents, it was kind of surprising to them when I told them at 18 I was going to register as a Republican. So it's about people who are willing to go against the grain even when it's not popular, and I've demonstrated that.
Well, I know what you're talking about. I lived in upstate New York, so I understand that. I want to go back to that. But I guess to put a bullet point on it to make it easy for the folks out there maybe to understand, are you saying that you basically would sort of be a kind of U.S. Senator for Florida like a Marco Rubio?
Well, Marco Rubio and I share our views and really our vision and values. But I think what's most important is we're 2 very different.
Well, of course, you're your own person, your own man.
We're 2 very different people. But going against the grain, recognizing the tipping point where our country is. Marco recognizes it. I recognize it. I see so many of these leaders in Washington right now: the Jim DeMints, the Mike Lees, the Pat Toomey's. Right. These are people who are not Ron Johnson Johnson from Wisconsin. These are people who went to Washington not to be part of the club.
Senator Rand Paul.
Who recognize that our country is facing a difficult challenge. Yeah, exactly. This is one of those generational moments, and I believe we need to rise to the challenge like those generations before us rose to theirs. Senator Rubio recognizes that, and I think so many of us that want to go to Washington right now, it's because 2010 was only the first wave.
Right.
It was only the beginning. Clearly not enough has changed in Washington, and we see it with the results that we're getting right now. 2012 is about sending conservative reinforcements to get the job done. Those